Hi everybody, my name is Lauren and I am your gluten-free baker today and always. And these are my 3 beautiful children that I bake with. Yay! And as a mom, sometimes it is hard to bake with children, and I am here to teach you how to bake not only gluten-free, but how to teach with children. And I'm here to make it seem like it's easier than it actually is. Thanks for being here with us today. So today we're making gluten-free chocolate brownies, which is one of my son's favorite things because he loves chocolate, and who doesn't love brownies? So this is a really simple recipe. It's only 6 ingredients and it's only going to take you a total of 45 minutes, and half an hour of that is the baking part. The other 15 is mixing it all together. So the first thing that you need to do is always preheat your oven first. Otherwise you're going to be waiting. Some of the things that you need to be aware of to make things easier when you're baking with children is to have all of your ingredients prepared and ready to go, and a clean workspace. Because if you have your flour in the pantry, if you have your eggs still in the refrigerator, if you have the oven not preheated, you're gonna be running around trying to get those ingredients and making sure your kids don't touch a hot stove. So if you have everything prepped and ready to go, it's a lot easier than it's going to be than if your children are all over the place. So to get started, we need to melt the chocolate and the butter. So in the recipe, you only need 3/4 of a cup of butter, and you need 4 ounces of chocolate. Now the thing with the chocolate is I like to use Baker's unsweetened chocolate, but if you don't have Baker's unsweetened chocolate, you can always use regular chocolate chips. The only difference you have to do in your recipe is if you're using semi-sweet chocolate chips, you add half of the amount of sugar than if you use unsweetened chocolate. Then you use the full amount of sugar in your recipe.
Mama, I have a question.
Yes.
If I'm making brownies, can I use this chocolate chip?
You need 4 ounces of chocolate chips. Okay, so this is the part that takes the longest, is melting the chocolate and the butter. What you need to do while you're melting the chocolate and butter is to not let it burn and not let it boil. So you should have your stove on the lowest to second lowest setting. Mine is numbered 2 through 8. And I like to keep mine on 2, and I just like to watch it and stir it and just keep an eye on it, because that's the most crucial part, is not burning your chocolate, because then when you have brownies, they will taste like burnt chocolate, and we don't want burnt chocolate. Yes.
What happens if the chocolate's burnt?
It's gonna taste like burnt chocolate.
That's disgusting.
Something that you also need to remember to do while you're baking is to set your oven to 350 degrees. So let me show you what our chocolate and butter is looking like right now. You can see that it's starting to melt and stick to the bottom. And I like to turn the pan up sideways and let the warm, melted, liquidy chocolate do its job by also melting the rest of the chocolate and the butter. But I try to be careful so you don't bend it too much and tilt it too much and pour it all over your stove top. So like I said, this process takes a total of 45 minutes. The longest part is melting the chocolate and the butter. Try to make sure you always have room temperature butter. That will make it melt faster. Otherwise, you're gonna sit here stirring twice as long to melt frozen butter. Let me go over the ingredients list with you while we are waiting for the butter and the chocolate to melt. So like I said, it's only 6 ingredients, and you need 4 ounces of unsweetened chocolate, or like I said, you can use 4 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips. Any chocolate chips that you have at home will work. You can also just buy a box of Baker's unsweetened chocolate, and that makes it really easy because it's 1 bar. You just break it into pieces and then drop it in and you're ready to go. You also need 3/4 cup of butter or margarine, and I like to use butter. So 3/4 of a cup is 1 whole stick plus a half a stick. You also only need 2 cups of sugar. You need 3 eggs, and I like to have my eggs already cracked and separated to make sure that I don't get eggshells into my pot or whatever I'm making, because nobody wants to eat an eggshell. I also, it says to use 1 teaspoon of vanilla, but I prefer almond extract or almonds in my brownies, so I use almond extract instead. And you only need 1 cup of flour. But because we're doing gluten-free baking, you can use any type of gluten-free flour that's out there. There is Pillsbury flour that is sold at Walmart. There's Krusteaz flour that is sold at Albertsons and Fred Meyer. And you can also get King Arthur flour from most stores. There's a lot of different kinds of flours out there, and I have found a few that I really like. So saying a specific one to use is
like this.
Like this. You know, I can't really say use this one instead of that one because I've tried a few of them and I really like them. So whatever your preference is, whatever makes it easier for you, go ahead and use that one. Okay, so when I get to this point where my butter and chocolate are almost completely melted, what I like to do here is turn off the heat, because you want to take the brownie mixture off of the heat anyway, so you can add your sugar and your eggs and your flour without them starting to cook. Otherwise, you're gonna have chocolate scrambled eggs. I like to take it off of the heat so that I can start prepping it to cool down, so that when I add my eggs, I don't end up with chocolate scrambled eggs. As good as that sounds, I don't know if it's good or not. So you can see now we have no more chocolate and no more butter. All we have is just liquid chocolate goodness. And that is when you can shift over to the other side of your stovetop so that you are completely off of the heat, because you don't want any heat to be in this chocolate anymore. So the next ingredient that we're gonna add to continue to cool down our chocolate is the sugar. We're gonna add our sugar. You can give the bowl a little tap to make sure you get it all out. Now this chocolate, once you start getting in all the sugar, it's gonna look a little bit grainy, and that's okay, that's how you want it to look. So let me get this stirred and I can show you the grainy texture that we're looking for. So you can see that it's mixing beautifully with the chocolate liquid. It's kind of looking like Rocky Road ice cream here. So all we need is a little bit of whipped cream topping and we're gonna have a party. Okay, so you can see right here, it's a little bit grainy looking and that's perfect. That's how you want it to look, but all of the sugar has been incorporated into the chocolate. The next thing that we're gonna add is our eggs, and you can add them all at once. You don't have to separate them and do one egg at a time. You can just add all 3 of your eggs at one time. And you want to get those in fully incorporated as well before you add the rest of your ingredients. So we're just going to keep mixing those in. So our eggs are all mixed in. The next thing that I add, because I like to follow recipes from top to bottom, the next thing on the list is the extract. So you can add vanilla or almond, and I like almond. So our last ingredient that we're gonna add today is our gluten-free flour. And one of the questions you might have is whether or not you have to sift it. I don't. Just add it in, it's not gonna make a difference. And now when you stir the flour in, you wanna scrape the sides of the bowl. You don't want there to be any white flour left on the sides. You wanna get everything in there. It's gonna get a little tough to stir. It's gonna be really thick. Okay. So our oven has finished preheating. I heard the beep a few minutes ago. Now all the flour, as you can see, has been mixed in with the chocolate, and all you have left is the chocolate ribbon of goodness.
Wow, it's like fudgy.
Yes, it is. The final thing that you need to do before you can bake is you need to get your pan ready. So like I said, having everything ready, I like to use glass pans. And you can use any kind of spray that you want, or you can use Crisco to grease the bottom of your pan. So you just give it a nice generous amount. And then I use paper towels and I just kind of mix it or rub it all along the edge of the pan. And you really want to get your fingers into the corners, because you don't want the corners of your brownies, which are my favorite part, stuck to the pan, because then you can't eat them. Okay, so what I'd like to do to tell if I have greased it right is, because of the light in here, I can look around my pan and see that it has been greased properly. Okay, so what you need to make sure you do, because I made this mistake once, I made my brownies gluten-free, I added the gluten-free flour, and then I used regular flour to flour my pan. Guess what? You can't give those to somebody that has a gluten intolerance or a wheat allergy, because it will make them sick. For the flour, you just kind of turn your pan and give it a little bit of tap so that the flour goes all around where you have greased it or sprayed it by giving it a few more little taps, and you have the perfectly floured glass pan. You can also use an aluminum pan, whatever kind of pan that you want. If you want to do a 9x13, you can do an 8x8, whatever your preference is. So let's move over to the table so that I can show you how to pour this in and then put it in the oven. So this is one of my favorite parts, is just the chocolate ribbon of goodness. When the ribbon stops, you can just continue to scrape the bottom of your pan. So all you have to do to get into the corners of your pan is you just use your spoon and put it in your kid's hair. And you just push the brownie batter into the corners. And then you have a perfect square of chocolate brownies. Now we're gonna put this in the oven at 350 degrees for 30 to 35 minutes. So let me put these in the oven. And always set your timer Now after 30 minutes, you need to make sure that you stick a toothpick in it and see if the chocolate has fully cooked. And the rule of thumb is if the toothpick comes out with wet or any of the brownies or cookies or whatever you're making, if it comes out with something on the toothpick, it's not done. So you would just need to add more time to whatever you're baking. So we'll check these in 30 minutes to see how they look.
See how the brownies look. And look at this. What flies, but you can't see it? Solve my riddle at the end of the video.
So after your timer goes off and the 30 minutes are over and you have checked to make sure the brownies are cooked.
Mommy,
Hold on.
is there 4 minutes left for this? Is that what you think?
This is your end result of brownies. And you can see the little holes. That's where I poked them a couple times to be sure that they were done. And there you have it. Gluten-free chocolate fudge brownies. Now I'm gonna cut these up and I'm gonna show you the inside because they are to die for. You can have them with ice cream, you can have them plain, or you can just use a fork and dig in. You've earned it. So you can tell by looking at the brownies in my hand, they are soft and gooey and super fudgy, and that is exactly what you want. Take a bite, you deserve it. Please do follow me on Facebook at Sweet Without Wheat Creations if you want to see more of the kind of things that I can make and walk you through and teach you how to make. That's Sweet Without Wheat Creations. I'm Lauren and I'm signing you out.
What flies?
Chocolate chips.
That's not the answer.
Oh.
It's time, because the timer just is almost about to turn off. Because Mommy, earlier she was in another bag. And so, thank you all for watching.